Hello and welcome back to the Q&A. So yeah, as always, it's far past time that I did one of these, and today's one's actually going to be pretty cool. We've got a bunch of interesting questions, including a decent amount of alternate universe shenanigans, which should be pretty cool. As always, if you have a question, then you can just leave it down in the comments, and I will add it to my list of questions. So the very first question for today comes from Jack Harpgood, who said, does Blizzard's current standpoint on alternate universe timelines, well, just alternate timelines, make Warlords of Draenor sound incredibly filler to you? Or do you actually think there's a much greater connection between the two time periods that we are not currently aware of, or that will perhaps be revealed later on in the expansion? Right now, based on what Blizzard has said, a lot of people seem to be describing this as an expansion of zero consequence to our world. I believe this is ridiculous and will not be the case in the slightest. Well, the good news, Jack, is that you are probably correct. So, I've actually sort of done a video on this already, basically just a full-on explanation, so I don't know if that'll be up by the time this video is, but just keep your eyes out for it. Anyway, so I think that it is going to matter very much in our own events, because of the way that Blizzard have done it. It's not like we're going back to, say, the Well of Eternity to change events then. No, a external threat is coming at us. And when I say external threat, it's not from our little timeline or anything like that. I think the example I use in the video is that it's kind of like if you had an alternate universe version of Mongolia floating around the place. And let's just say, Dick Cheney just popped into my head. So let's just say Dick Cheney ended up doing something really, really illegal. And he ran off to alternate universe Mongolia to the year 1200 and whatever, when Genghis Khan was running around. And then Dick Cheney said, I've had enough with America. Me and Genghis Khan are going to go into New York, and we're going to kill everyone. Now, to the regular people of New York, having the Mongol horde from an alternate universe would be a very real threat. That's the point. It's not like Dick Cheney going back is going to change our timeline at all. The only thing that it could do is wreck our current day New York and affect our events leading on into the future. It's the exact same thing in Warlords of Draenor. Garrosh going back in time is not going to affect our timeline because he's going back to an alternate timeline, to someone else's timeline. So what Garrosh's events or actions are going to do is just create a new threat that is very real and that can affect us. And if they roll over us, well, we're going to be killed, and that will be the end of our timeline. If you know what I mean. That's the point of Warlords of Draenor. It really doesn't matter that time travel or anything like that is involved. It's still a continent or / planet with a threat that's trying to kill us, and it's very real. Now, I do think that it's going to have consequences on our own world and, other expansions as they move on. There's Burning Legion stuff going on here. Perhaps they're going to try to just tie events together. Blizzard have said that they intend on making expansions lead on into each other in a far more cohesive manner than they previously had been doing. Because, it used to be just, oh look, Illidan, oh look, Arthas, oh look, Deathwing, oh shit, we've ran out of big lore characters. So I think what's probably going to happen is maybe Aurelion and Terillion are going to pop up and they'll be interested in what went on in Ironhorde Draenor. Something will happen that would lead us in. But I definitely do think that we're going to have some sort of lead on. Now, I don't know a great deal about the Legendary Quest. I know that you do it with Khadgar, so there's certainly potential for a character with as much gravitas as Khadgar to do something important enough to lead us directly on to the next expansion. But no, I do agree with you. I think it's ridiculous that people are saying that this is going to have zero consequence on our own world. And yeah, it'll definitely lead on to other things, and I think that it could from a lore and just... well, maybe not from a lore perspective, but just from a overall expansion perspective, whatever. It's going to matter, and I think it will be a lot of fun. Now, is it filler? Well, they probably could have just jumped on from Pandaria to whatever the expansion after Warlords is. They probably could have done that, because you know what? We did go into Warlords of Draenor using hyper-contrivance, but actually pretty well executed hyper-contrivance when you get down to it. So they could have done that, but ultimately, just look back. Could they have went from Burning Crusade to Cataclysm? Yes. All that mattered, was just when the hell does Deathwing pop up out of the ground? So, really, I think it's all fine, and a lot of that's just forum raging in a way. Okay, so next we've got another question from the Lazy Peon, who said, could Blizzard revive Wintergrasp and Tol Barad? And more importantly, do I think they will? Because, well, yes, of course they could, but will they? That's the big thing. And he also left another question, which was, do I think that South Shore versus Tarren Mill could be a permanent addition to World of Warcraft if it could maybe only be accessed every 2 to 3 hours, similar to Tol Barad and Wintergrasp? Okay, so first of all, let's talk about Wintergrasp and Tol Barad. Do I think they will revive them? No. The reason for that's because they're not current content, they're not in the story and feel and theme of the current expansion, so therefore they probably won't. Now the same could be said for many battlegrounds, but I just think that because these are kind of like world events, they won't. And turning Wintergrasp into a battleground wouldn't really work, because it would have to be 2 potentially 30-minute long engagements. However, I would love to see Wintergrasp matter a little bit more, and I think that they could just buff up the honor point reward for the quest, or do something like that to make it desirable. They could definitely do it by just adding a bigger carrot, essentially. But yeah, I don't think it'll be fully revamped or anything like that. And do I think they could? Yes. Yes, they could. Because they could just give you more rewards, they can make things more relevant, just, do all that. Now, as for the South Shore versus Tarren Mill part of the question, I don't think that it makes too much sense for it to be accessed every 2 to 3 hours, because it doesn't really have any effect inside the game world. The reason why the 2 to 3 hour thing happened is because it was to give access to the various daily quests of Tol Barad and then things like the Vault of Archivon. That wouldn't be needed for the South Shore versus Tarren Mill thing, because it's already being put in as a bespoke battleground that you queue up for. So I think that honestly, if South Shore versus Tarren Mill was extremely popular, and something that Blizzard actually received positive feedback on, well, maybe they would just try to design something like that could work. Maybe a deathmatch that had a little bit more spice to it rather than just pure killing. So perhaps a team deathmatch that had, that was in a coliseum with a spike pit, or, with various environmental hazards. Maybe they could do something like that. But certainly, I think that if you like the idea of a team deathmatch, then participating in South Shore versus Tarren Mill and also telling the developers that you enjoyed it is absolutely what you should be doing. Because I think there's definitely a chance that we could see team deathmatches in Warcraft if this event really does, work quite well. I'm still not convinced though, because it is just going to turn into 2 Zergs whacking each other for a long time, and I don't know if that's going to be very interesting. Okay then, so we also have a question from Dear Hess66, who said, is there an alternate timeline, Burning Legion, Kil'jaeden, Sargeras, etc.? And if so, what about past villains? So, for an example, like Illidan, Lich King, etc. Well, basically, yes, there is a separate Burning Legion in the other timeline. It involves Kil'jaeden, Sargeras, all the people that you know and love. So this is a bit of a weird one, actually. The alternate timeline Burning Legion means that we cannot face any of their commanders without it basically ruining our own Burning Legion. And I say that by, if we kill our commander Sargeras on Draenor, like alternate timeline Draenor, then we know we can already kill them, so it kind of makes any story in our timeline a little bit moot. And I do know for a fact, because of what Blizzard have said, that while there will be a Burning Legion influence in the final tier, we won't be fighting any major commanders. So they basically are a little bit more background to Warlords of Draenor, and they're not really going to be active villains. However, we will be fighting their minions, so I suppose that does count for something. Now, I suppose they are technically still a threat to our planet, because they could come through the Dark Portal and find a way to get to Azeroth, but I don't think the Blizzard would really go that direction, because the lore implications and just the degree to which it would mess up the story would be a little bit insane. I'd say that ideally we should completely close off the link with Old Draenor, or with Ironhorde Draenor at the end of this expansion, but I don't know if they will, because, hell, even Chilton said that they may at some point visit the Ogre continent to the southeast. Now, personally, I think that would be pointless filler, because that Ogre Empire is not really relevant to anything, and I don't think they could really make an interesting story there, or a compelling expansion-wide villain. Unless one of our... unless, say, Deathwing woke up again and went over there and did a garrosh on us, but I don't think they can really pull that thing again. Alright then, finally... penultimately, we have a question from Nicole Mott, who said, I've heard conflicting information about the old gods, just how powerful are they? Well, that's a funny question. I'd say that they're definitely not as powerful as the Titans. because the Titans were able to defeat them, they killed Yasharaj and imprisoned the other ones. Now, the reason why they didn't kill all of them is because A, they were very powerful, and B, killing them would have destroyed the planet, and for some reason the Titans loved our planet. I don't know why, it's not really, I mean, surely they would have just seen the old gods and thought, yeah, we're going to cut our losses and move on. But anyway, yeah, the old gods are very powerful, but I think the Titans are definitely more powerful. In comparison to the Burning Legion, I don't know what things would be like for the old gods. I'd imagine that Sagaris would be stronger than them, though. And especially just the combined might of the Burning Legion is essentially infinite, because, you know, they all, like, infinite worlds full of demons and the Twisting Nether and all that gump. So yeah, if you're an old god, you can destroy pretty much everything apart from a Pantheon of Titans, or perhaps an entire Burning Legion. And then Nicole also asked, what do I think the Army of Light actually is? And basically what it's described as, the combined Alliance and Horde of Azeroth, among with a bunch of Naru and things like that. Basically, it's everyone that we see in-game. All the good guys, and then, yeah, basically all of them, you know, behind Anduin and Velen and stuff like that. I don't know what I think about that prophecy. I think it could end up to, just to lead to some really annoying stuff with the lore. I don't know, but basically it's going to be us and our buddies against the Legion, essentially. Okay, so finally we've got a question from Alistair9088, who said, well, he basically asked, what the hell's going on with alternate universe Azeroth, because the Iron Horde orcs, well, never really invaded that. Honestly, we don't know and we never will know, because Blizzard said that that's not a place that we will likely ever see. Though we could presume that the events of Warcraft 3 wouldn't have happened, or at least would have happened differently, and that probably would have just led to the Burning Legion taking over the planet then. Yeah, I'd say that's what would have happened. Markamond would have succeeded, World Tree would have been all, you know, destroyed, he would have had its power, full-on Burning Legion invasion, everyone dead, lots of fire and blood and dead people and lovely things like that. Basically, one of the things about Warcraft is the orcs arriving on our planet is kind of, and you know, the constant strife between both factions is what has made everyone strong enough to be able to face all the various problems, so without that, if we're sticking to what Blizzard's sort of MO is with the whole message of Warcraft is that, you know, we're sort of stronger together rather than apart, therefore, alternate universe Azeroth is probably kinda fucked. So yay, we kinda, you know, not only did Garrosh try to mess up our Azeroth, he did technically probably lead to the destruction of another one, so I suppose he's on a pretty good kill streak, all things considered. But anyway, that's basically it for this video. As I said at the start, if you've got any questions of your own, please leave them down in the comments. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.